Any advice for people who are like in conflict with each other and they feel like they're on the same loop?
What is about our behavior that is disconnecting to someone? Too close to some wounding, not pointing fingers at other people, but seeing ourselves. Being right doesn't matter. We also carry some wounds. It was an internal battle, subtle, but created disconnect. My generation didn't get a lot of conversations about feelings. However, I am just bracing for the impact of what I'm not doing because my generation is going to have challenges as well.
Welcome to Simply Complicated. I'm Sadie, and today I'm excited to introduce you to a friend and a mentor, Rosa de Koning. Rosa has been an executive coach for over 25 years, working with government agencies such as NASA and FEMA to global companies such as Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Toyota. She helps people understand their unique strengths, grow in maturity as leaders, and help create healthier environments and teams. She leads with vulnerability and shares her own stories of growth, and she is a lifelong learner. And so I'm really excited to share this episode with you. So would you give us a little overview of who you are and some of your life experience?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Mexico, came to the States for the first time to study a master's degree at Texas A&M. I went back to Mexico and got hired by the Gallup organization. And I started working with them in Mexico, but later on they brought me to the US. In the meanwhile, I met the person who is now my husband, and he used to work also for Gallup. So we moved to Ohio, and I started working with really broad range of organizations in different industries, because that is what Gallup did. They exposed us to a lot of different industry. So I went to work with organizations like Best Buy, big pharmas, right? I work with almost every single pharma that you know, right? They used to work with, and I had the opportunity to be exposed to them. So Sharing Cloud, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, Bayer, like all of those companies. And then I had the opportunity to also be exposed to the government in Mexico. I had some exposure to working with some areas in the government in Mexico, and in the US with FEMA, Air Force, NASA, different pockets of the government. So that was a very nice exposure. So when I left Gallup, the idea was that I was going to be taking a year off, like a sabbatical. My kids were little, so I wanted to spend time with them. And two of my clients asked for Gallup to allow them to continue to work with me. So I left Gallup like probably on a Friday. And then on Monday, I started contracts with those two clients that Gallup very kindly allowed me to open up the contracts with them. And I kept working with them. That was a very smooth transition into opening my own practice. And executive coaching normally, as you know, works like with marketing mouth to mouth. Those two clients were healthcare and pharma, and that is my niche to today. So those are the two areas that I continue to work on. At the same time, when I was with Gallup, I was part of a program that was certifying me as a coach really early in my career. That was through Georgetown University. And that was what gave me kind of the credentials to be part of the International Coaching Federation. You need to have like certain hours that you're coaching. Gallup gave me that exposure. Some years ago, I decided to go back to school, and I went for a master's in divinity, and I finished that program probably 2.5 years ago. Right now, actually, like I applied for the doctorate.
Did you go for it? Yeah.
Yeah, I applied for that. I'm waiting to hear what the school is gonna say about that. I'm a permanent student. I love going to a school and learning something to be challenged, to remind me that I know very little and that I need to continue to think in a different way.
Which is an amazing thing, because you know so much And so to hear you say that, that's a refreshing thing, that there's always more to be learning. And I think you've been a good example of that for myself. So
thank you.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
And you also mentioned you were with Gallup, you were part of the research development for the Clifton Strengths.
Yes. When they hired me, they were finalizing the stages of launching the instrument. So I was part of the research team, and the instrument, the way that it is right now, is part of all of those hours of research, and I was a small part of that team that transitioned from the instrument that was the conceptualization of talent to now what we know as Clifton Strengths. It is an assessment that is designed to help you identify what you do naturally well. So Gallup sees talents as patterns that we have in the way that we are thinking, or the way that we are behaving, or the way that we are interacting with people, and identifying those patterns and knowing that we have a ranking order in how we are naturally or more organically using certain behaviors, right? The instrument is allowing you to identify that. Huge benefit is that when you use that in a community, then you use the same terminology, and that is increasing the speed in which you can get comfortable getting to know people that you work with, or people that you're collaborating in your personal, professional life with. It allows you also to and other people using those concepts in talent.
There's a lot of personality tests out there that like people can, there's the Enneagram, there's Myers-Briggs, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've talked about this before, where there's like a desire to grow. And so I wonder if that's, people are clinging to these, I'm a 2, I'm an 8, I'm, to really understand people. And so as a coach, as somebody myself who wants to continue to grow and understand people, why do you think people are so gung-ho about these different assessments?
We love to figure out things about ourselves. I think that we see the world through our own lens, and we are so intrigued about ourselves. And when we find an instrument that is allowing us to stop and to reflect, to converse with someone about who we are, I think that is deeply attractive for us. Because Clifton Strengths is one of the instruments that I use, but if one of my clients is using colors, or if using any other instrument, then I lean towards that instrument, right? And then I start talking to someone about themselves, about things that they do well, about things that they excel at. People start smiling. This is super, super interesting. People love talking about their natural design. And I think we are intrigued to recognize more and more about like, what is there that I need to be more aware of so I can have more intentionality in how I behave. So I think that is intriguing for us to learn more about ourselves.
Yeah. And when you just said that people like hearing about themselves or something, it just made me think of, I was like, why? And I was like, for myself, I feel like I'm then known if somebody else is seeing that in myself. And I think that is, I don't know why I would want that, but I think that's just a connection point where like, do you see it? Because I love that part. Like I am, like you mentioned earlier, like creativity and people, that's something I know that I'm really passionate about. And I have like excitement about like, how can I do this with my work, and how can I connect with people? So to hear someone be like, I see that in you. I'm like, that is something about me. And it doesn't need to be like a ego trip or anything, but it just feels like I feel a little bit more known and understood.
I find it actually very humble for people to say, okay, let's talk about me. Opening the space and going there and showing a little bit of who we are. I find it an exercise that is brave and it is humbling. And again, I agree with you. I think that we want to be seen and we want to be understood and we want to be validated. And I believe that is because we are relational by nature. And we want to build a meaningful connection with someone. And in order for us to do something that is really creating connectivity, we have to be authentic and we want to be recognized for that authenticity. And these instruments allow us to say, hey, I am this way. This is why I'm acting in this way. And it's giving us the language that we use to be making sense of our nature in front of someone, right? And it's so easy to do when we have a number or a color or a I don't know, a name of something that we are doing. And then it makes a lot of sense that we are attracted to using those instruments. When I have used that, even with my kids, and my youngest one is extremely competitive, competition number one. And some people would say, oh my goodness, he's competitive, how scary. But when I use that to validate that he uses that to strive, to do his best, to inspire other people. And for me to use that instrument to validate my child in what is a purpose of for him in life, that is amazing. And the oldest one, he has been always like very curious intellectually. So Michael is a permanent learner. He's always reading something and being curious about that, asking questions. So for me to be able to recognize something that is fundamental for who he is, and is creating an identity that is connected to his DNA, I think it does something on people when you're recognizing that and you are applauding it and admiring it and talking about it. And then it becomes part of the identity of someone, a healthy identity of how that person is designed.
Yeah, that's so important. The example of how you're doing that with your sons and how, because when you say competition, competitiveness, like, yeah, I have, maybe the default would be like, oh, they're competitive. Wow. Stay away or something like that. Yeah. And I think that there's so many labels like that of people that I have in my own mind, even though I'm trying to be aware. I'm like, oh, I can notice I still think that. And then I'll have to be like, wait, maybe that's a good thing. But how often we do that to each other and or label our kids that way. And then it becomes a part of their identity in an unhealthy way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember my mom used to say how stubborn I could be, right? Because I have a talent that is called focus and I have achievers. So when I kind of like have an objective, I work really hard until I get there. And probably sometimes I made my mom like suffer like about something that she wanted me to change my mind about. And I was not mature, so maybe I was like stubborn there. But at some point I was able to tell her, I am not stubborn, I'm persistent. And I remember how affirming that was for me to change from a negative label that I knew I could have the risk to go to turn that into the positive aspect of that is that I can be very persistent, right? So that instrument does that even when we are misinterpret or ourselves getting into those two aspects, it redirects our effort to do something that, yes, I often can be stubborn if I'm not careful. So let me be aware. So I use that to be persistent instead of stubborn. Right? So if we would have that conversation with someone, I think it becomes real but helpful.
And that you can see that different shift, because sometimes, at least in my life for myself, I can be like, well, that's just how I am. Get over it. or like, oh, I don't know. And then it creates this tension where people aren't understanding each other. If there's, I guess what I'm taking from that is like, oh, how can I, in the things of who I am, continue to grow in maturity in the way that I view it? So empathy, does that mean I have to be overly connected to everybody's emotions all the time? Or can I just be like, oh, I can recognize and understand people, and then kind of have that more, I'm totally butchering this statement. I don't know if it's making sense.
No, I love what you're going.
Okay.
Because what I'm hearing is, do I choose to use the talent all the time? Sometimes to my detriment.
Yes. Yeah.
And the beauty of talent is that you can choose to understand the feeling of someone, even feel the feeling, right? But not engaging or not carrying that.
Yeah.
And that is what the instrument is going to be doing. It's going to be teaching you more about yourself. And that conversation about the instrument is so enriching for the person that I think that is what it keeps us being attracted to go into an instrument that is allowing us to make sense of ourselves.
Yeah.
So we can find a better way to be connecting with other people and serving other people and being of value to people.
Yeah. Very well said.
Did I capture what you were saying about empathy?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for that there. So the whole thing with Simply Complicated is, I would say, it's pretty simple. The answer is pretty simple, but that doesn't mean it's not complicated. So like, you know, we were created for relationships. Yes. Or I believe that. I think you do too. But that doesn't mean it's not complicated to like figure relationships out, or just so many ways I've seen that in my life where I would say I'm really simple. I'm a simple person, but I'm complicated. Like there's complexities to me as a human. So that's kind of the conversation that I want to open up. Is I have benefited from people having honest, vulnerable conversations. I've benefited from you being in my life as a mentor and a friend and a coach, and you bringing vulnerability and you modeling that authenticity. And that's impacted me in so many ways and made me more compassionate to myself, more compassionate to other people. It's helped me grow. It's helped me see myself better. It's helped me learn to show up in relationships better and be like, oh, how am I coming across? Oh, I didn't know I was coming across that way. And so because I've been able to experience that, I just wanted to I'm a filmmaker. Why not document it and then like share it with someone? Because sometimes it's hard to know what something could look like if you don't witness it. And when I've seen people have a conversation, I'm like, oh, that's how it could go better. Or like the persistent versus stubborn. I'm like, oh, of course. And now I've heard it, and now I can see that in my nieces and nephews or something. And I can like love people better. And so that's kind of the hope of this conversation, is just continuing that and getting to talk with you more and learn more about you. So
I love the concept of how things can be simple, but behind them you have so much depth and complexity, right? And that is what makes them relevant, I think. And I love that concept. I love the paradox of putting simplicity and complexity together. I love the paradox. I love the concept. I really like what you're doing.
Thank you. So to dive into some of that complexity, you mentioned like your mom and how she would say like, oh, you're so stubborn. And maybe there was some parts of being stubborn. But one of the questions I had was, what did you believe about yourself as a child, and how do you versus how you see yourself now? And we'll start with that one.
I think I grew up with a paradox, a duality about myself. I think that I was, and probably I am, a very insecure person. And at the same time, I had parents, especially my dad. He always affirmed me in some areas. So I would hear very often affirmation in the academical area. My parents used to teach as professors at a university in Mexico, and they valued education a lot. So I think that they encouraged my brother and I to be good students and to try hard. And my brother didn't have to try hard. He was always very good naturally. But I was like the person who was dedicated, and I had to make an effort to be probably as good of a student as my brother was. And I grew up with that duality then of like, how much am I really good at as a student? How truly smart am I, right? And how much am I faking it? So I think that I always had that question. I compare myself to other girls so often. And they always won in my eyes, right? So they were more capable, more charismatic, they were smarter, they were prettier, like all of those things. So that is why I think that it was like I grew up with that insecurity around me. My parents have been loving and dedicated to our family. And I have gone through different stages in terms of my relationship with my mom. I have been very close to my mom early on in my life. And then I got extremely critical of her. I think that I thought that I could have done a better job as a mom. And I was demanding, and I was, I wish that she could have done things differently. And I think I'm entering in a stage of life when I understand that I am more like her than I knew that I was. And I recognize some things in my mom that I see in myself. And I think that I love and admire and respect my mom more than I did 5-10 years ago. I think that she has been the same mom, but I have been a different daughter depending on where I am in my own maturity. Yeah. She has always done really an amazing job, and she has done the best that she could. And I recognize this in me now. She always thought that she didn't do well enough. That she was like, she owes me something. She wanted to give me more. She wanted to be better. And I see myself having that same interaction with my boys right now. Like I really, it really bothers me when I don't give them the best version of what they deserve. And I think it's just a hint of perfectionism that is like trending from DNA from my mom to me. And I think that that perfectionism made me so critical for so many years. Yeah.
What do you owe, like, seeing your mom differently to? I know you mentioned maturity, and obviously you continue to grow and understand people through your coaching. So, but if there was one thing that you would kind of be like, this helped me see my mom differently.
Yeah. I think maturity, but I don't want it to be about like, I grew and I'm more mature. I'm literally talking about a model that is allowing you to understand behaviors in a different way through the lens of maturity. I'm not saying that I'm more mature. I'm saying that that model has helped me see things in a different way. I was talking to a client recently, and he shared with me that he's writing a book on how different we would be if we, as humans, would remember the first 4 years of our lives. And that was very intriguing. He is a little bit of a really advanced client of mine. So he would be very unique in his thinking. So at the beginning, I must confess that I didn't understand. I was like thinking and thinking and thinking about the concept and asking questions. But at the end, I understood that what he wanted to do is that to make us realize how much love we received in our first 4 years of life, how dependent we were of those sometimes one person, two people, 5 people around a child that are devoted to making sure that that person survives. And if we would be able to see that, we would be more grateful. We would feel loved and taken care of, right? And because we don't remember that, we're not able to connect with that devotion, that sacrifice that our parents, right, gave in time and everything that they were. And I think that the model then allows me to understand that what I was doing is I wanted to define motherhood in my terms. I wanted to prove myself that I could do a better job than my mom did. That was just a way for myself to justify my identity and to make sure that I was doing a good job as a mom.
Yeah.
And I was needed. Maybe I needed that at that point. I was in a different country. I was doing this by myself. Maybe that was a mechanism to do that. I'm trying to be compassionate towards myself, like to the time that I had to do that to make sense of my life at that point. But at some point, I didn't have to prove myself as a better mom than my mom.
Yeah.
I just wanted to love her and honor her. I was tired of like trying to debate points and criticize every single thing that she did. And it was nothing. You hear that and you think that I was like in a permanent fight with her, but it was not like that. It was an internal battle, subtle, but created disconnect. And I was tired of that. Like I want to get my mom. Yeah.
I'm hearing that it was more of like understanding. Did you have a conversation or it was just kind of over?
So many things, right? Like I think that the complexity of everything that is around us, like going back to seminary, right? Starting doing so many things in terms of like what is my faith basing concepts on, right? And it's love and compassion and relationship and giving yourself and transforming yourself into someone that is the best example of human being, right? So to me, all of that, of course, is like challenging my thinking. Am I honoring my mom the way that I should be honoring her, the way that I want to be honoring her? So that is one thing. Like spiritually, I think I was challenged. Like I am meant to love my mom and to honor my mom. But at the same time, I'm as I was saying, like my kids, when they went out of our home, and then I observed them and I saw the same behaviors in them that I was having when I left home, right? And that you feel at that point that you know what you're talking about, that mom doesn't understand the complexity of what I'm dealing with. So I saw those behaviors and I got really scared, not because I felt that they were going to reject me or that I was going to be disconnecting with them. That is scary, but that was not my drive. I got really concerned that for so many years, I have caused pain in myself. I have suffered feeling that I was not loved the way that I wanted to be loved. And I got super concerned about the fact that my kids could go through years feeling that they are not loved the way that they need to be loved. And that to me was super revealing. That to me was a transition. I don't want my kids to have years feeling the same way that I did because of lack of maturity. Yeah. And I have had that conversation with Guido, and I think that I have had the conversation with Michael once or twice, and Ryan. And I want to continue for them to see that, because if I can help them go through that pain quicker, right, I think it would be helpful for them. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. That's beautiful. That's complex.
So complex.
and real and really well said. Is there something that you feel like your mom could have done back then or said that might have helped you in the middle of those years of not feeling loved, or anyone could have said?
Generationally, I think that we are running risks, and we're going to be having certain behaviors, right? Like I hear generations saying, my dad, my mom never said, I love you, never gave me a hug. And I think that was the way of connecting in that generation. And I think my generation didn't get a lot of conversations about feelings. So I was not asked, how do you feel? Right? So I think that is something that maybe she could have done in a different way. However, I am just bracing for the impact of what I'm not doing, because my generation is going to have challenges as well, limitations. So as much as I can say that I wish that I would have sat down with my mom and talk about my feelings, I think that I choose to focus on everything that she did for me. And she did so many things. My mom is one of the cleanest persons I have ever known. And our home was always super clean. My clothes was always impeccable. She gave me a sense of aesthetics. And she is a chemical engineer by training, and she specialized in textiles. So today I know a little bit of textiles because of her, and aesthetics is something that I'm like drawn to because of her. She is the achiever in our family by concept. So I am achiever because she is achiever, right? So I love her drive, and she was born in a small town in Mexico, and she went to Mexico City to study. She was one of the few women in the program. She taught me that I could do those things, right? So yes, she didn't talk about feelings. And I talk with my kids about feelings, but I'm not doing some other things, and I don't know what that is. And I am happy now with the things that she gave me. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the things that she gave me. Yeah, if I would choose a mom, I would choose her. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I like how you're saying that we all have those generational things, or family generational things. I grew up in a family, we didn't really talk about feelings, but more so I think my mom and her family, or my dad and his family, they didn't. But I feel like they slowly started bringing a little bit more. And I feel like there is, at least in my world, a shift of people being like, let's talk more about feelings. And I see different sides where it's like, my family didn't, they're the worst. And then people, sometimes it's, helpful to cut people off, but not to get into that necessarily. But I like how you're sharing that you're recognizing, the feelings was important. And now you're in work where you sit with people and you talk with them and you understand them. And maybe that's something that you didn't have, but you've been able to kind of work through. You went through a lot of pain from that and not feeling loved. And now as you've kind of moved through some of that pain, you're able to see the goodness that was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really powerful to hear, because I think a lot of people are maybe in the middle of it, where they don't feel the love that you that you don't want your kids to feel. And yeah, I just think a lot of people can relate to that feeling. And it's complex because I used to dismiss my feelings because I'd be like, well, I didn't need that. My parents are great. But there's like that balance of like, well, also, can I learn that skill to be able to like hear my own feelings, or like find friends to be able to talk about that. And I feel like my mom, speaking of moms, my mom and I feel like we've been able to grow in that now. And like, I'm so grateful, because there's times where we would kind of bump heads where I'm like, she's not hearing. It's the same thing. Like, but I've continued growing to understand myself and understand what's coming up, and practice communicating with her. And she has done the same, which has been amazing, because now we get to talk about things. And if we kind of have a hiccup where, I might get triggered or she gets triggered, like we can be like, hey, what's coming up right now? Or, hey, how did what I say come across? Or I can say, hey, would you just hear me? Like, would you just hear what I'm feeling about this? And I can, be like, oh, I love that you're analytical or strategic, but maybe not right now. Like, could you just be with me? And she's like, oh, of course. Like, cause she shared before, she's like, I love you so much. Like and I think, I'm sure I've done this in my own life, but it's like, you don't have words. You were never taught those words to communicate like in a way that understands someone completely. Like we all have different experiences. So it's just having grace with each other presently to really start to understand each other and learn new skills together.
Last time that we were together, you mentioned that your mom said that when you get together, you get to like coincide, like coexist in that moment. What was the phrase that she used?
I don't remember.
You remember that? Like, it is just like such a joy that we can be at the same place and coexist. And that was such a beautiful thing for me to hear. And it has helped me because I'm having kids who are adults and they are like not living at home anymore. And when I hear what you're saying is that what reminds me is that as moms, as wives, as friends, as whatever it is, we try to do our best. Like when our moms are connecting with us, is like they are doing their best. They if they have a new skill, if they are like opening up to a new way to connecting with us, they're gonna do it. And when you see the resilience of a mom, they wanted to make it work, right? They're showing up again in our lives. Like that is such a beautiful testament of their loves. So at some point, I think we connect with that. And we, I think because of the different stages of our own maturity, we want to prove ourselves as independent and valuable. And that is when we become critical. But then we got to a point when we are like so confident, so okay with who we are, that we don't have to prove that anymore, that we can just accept like who we are, like in the beautiful components of us. And that is very nice. And we feel grateful for that. But also on the other side of what we are not doing well. And that is very humbling. And that is also a good exercise. But we are not trying to compete with that figure that is kind of our benchmark. And I think that is why we do that with moms. She is, for women, she's our benchmark. And we want to create an identity that is in connection to that, but we want to know that we are, I don't know, like surpassing them, doing a better job than they did. But again, that is, I think, is the stage of maturity that we are at. And And then sadly, when we have, I don't know how many years with them, then we come to the realization that actually it is amazing. It's a blessing to have the mom that we have.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have many years with her, and you have many years with your mom ahead, right? And that would be nice. And that is what I would love for my boys to experience, that they understand the two extremes of mom, and the mom is really messed up in so many ways, but then mom is also a person that loves them unconditionally, and that they are okay with that concept.
Yeah, that's good.
This is helpful for me too. I have been able to process things out loud, and land them in a different way. So this has been very, very good for me.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this with me too. It's last when we talked, you shared about what you're, as a mom and your boys moving away. And it was just, again, getting to hear from you helps me understand myself more, and also future as a mom, but also helps me understand my mom more too.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
absolutely.
Yeah,
you did the same to me, because when you were talking about that, I was thinking about how my kids are processing some things of not being in the same place and being independent. So yes, you do that to me as well. You bring a different perspective of not woman to woman, but also to see like a different generation from a different angle, right? A different role in life. So that's very helpful.
Kind of, we're talking about like moms and daughters or children. I guess I'm trying to think of like any advice for people who are like in conflict with each other, or like not understanding each other, and they feel like they're on the same loop. And any thoughts on like what people can do to help with that?
Yeah. Advice would be very risky for me to give, but if I would bring that to coaching, right? So what can we do in coaching to do that? When we go to therapy, normally we go with the intention to point out fingers, or to be validated in the fact that we are right. Right? So that is very common, the attitude that we have. And that is not very helpful to resolve conflict with people. I think if we would be more mature, we would be able to ask questions and to understand what is about our behavior that is disconnecting to someone. It could be something that we're doing that is creating pain, that is not our intention to do. Not even what we are doing makes sense that is going to be robbing people in that way. But sometimes we do things that is too close to some wounding that people had already. And if we are not aware of that, then we're going to be running the risk of causing more pain. And if we are asking questions and we are trying to understand what is about our behavior that is creating that emotional wave in that person. And I'm talking about relationships that you really care about. Like a parent who is not having a good relationship with one of her kids, or your spouse, or like this really good friend that you really want back into your life, or like this coworker that you admire and you respect, but somehow you're not seeing eye to eye. Like I'm talking about major things where you are open to do the work and to invest in that relationship. And I think asking questions and trying to understand that is very important. So I have two examples that come to my mind. I have a very, very good friend, and we went on a fun vacation, 3 of us. And then she's sharing something that is really special for her. And I, because of my strategic and my analytical, right, I'm running these into a different wave length, a different emotional connection. So my brain went to analysis, and her was sharing the story from an emotional perspective, and I became critical. And I made a comment in front of people that was almost like embarrassing to my friend. And I was able to recognize later on that because I was not able to connect emotionally with her, I was not able to rejoice in what she was rejoicing for. And my observation was irrelevant to the conversation, right? So she's a very good friend. And I was able to go and apologize almost immediately. And I fought for that relationship for months until she forgave me, right? And people around me would be even questioning, like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, because I care for that friend. And I love that friend. And I was in the wrong. I did something that hurt my friend. And then I was able to ask questions and understand her perspective and do that. Do I do that for everyone? Probably I won't, right? But for people who are really relevant to me, I think that is super important. I have my friend who is having a son, recently married, different country, and she is not connecting with a new daughter-in-law. You need to invest there. Yeah. You need to invest there. Otherwise, you're going to be risking not having a connection with your son and his new bride. And you're going to be disconnecting. Like, you need to ask questions, and they're going to be visiting them. And she was going about that in a very challenging way. And then we had a conversation, and she told me yesterday, she said, I talked to him and I asked some questions. Right? And now they are going to be staying with them at their home with a better understanding of what is best for the relationship. So I think asking questions makes a lot of sense in how we are robbing people in the wrong way, not pointing fingers at other people, but seeing ourselves, right? Not wanting to be validated in the right. Being right doesn't matter. Being able to connect with people, I think, matters.
Asking questions and then being willing to see how you might be coming across.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a wound, it's like, it's not, oh, I'm right. It's because it's they have a wound. Like, it's not your fault necessarily, but understanding that your impact might be bumping up against that. And like, do you want that to disconnect? And yeah, that's so well said. Thank you for sharing that. I know some people, myself included, of like, it's helpful for me to understand, because relationships are so complicated sometimes that, and then there can be such an emotion for the people that you care about most that it can get confusing, and being like, and asking questions is a great place, because then you're not trying to, did I do it right or did I not do it right? It's like, oh, maybe I don't understand. Let me get curious and move towards them.
Not only in how we are like getting close to wounding someone that is already sensitive there, but also like when someone says something and we get offended, like knowing that we also carry some wounds and we are hypersensitive about things. And people could have said something that it was not with that intention. Even like our interpretation is taking us to that. And it is about something that is related to us, not to the comment, not to the person. And for us to be able to dissect that and create that distinction in how what we are feeling is about us, I think it liberates from the responsibility of someone else hurting us, and it is very healthy for the relationship.
Yeah. I need to do that. My friend Taya that I made the film with, when we were working on Saturday, we had, like, I said something because I was overwhelmed by something that she had said, and then we got in the car to drive to leave the event, and I was like, so this is what was going on for me. And then she was sharing like, well, this is how it felt to me. And I had no idea. And she didn't know what was going on for me. And we could have just ended that. Like, I mean, not that it would have ended our friendship, but it would have created disconnection if we did not talk about what happened. And she got to share how I responded her, and I got to share like how what she had said like bumped up against my wound, and we were just, and it was like a really subtle thing, but you could feel the disconnection and the like, what is going on? And so we got to talk about it, and then we're like, oh, I see you. I do know that about you, and now we're like, you know, able to be closer friends again. So
it does something. It does something. I like the being vulnerable about what is happening with us. I was facilitating a team session for a client, and the main contact for me, the person who was leading the team, made a comment, and I felt incompetent. And it rocked me for some minutes. And then I asked them to go for a break. And then I was breathing and I was like centering. And then I came back and I was able to do the rest of the work. But at the end, my client said, "Can I talk to you?" And asked me if what she said was offensive or if it was something that I received in a negative way. By then, because I had that moment where I was able to center, I said, yes, it was something that I interpreted in that way, but it's not about you, it's about my wounding. And then I explained that to her, and it ended up being a beautiful conversation where she opened up, right? She was vulnerable as well. And I think we built a stronger relationship after that, like what you are saying with your friend. Yeah.
It's uncomfortable in it. Like, it's not just this like, oh, we're going to talk about these things. So we need to wrap up. I could talk to you for hours. So thank you so much for joining, for talking. I'd love to do this more with you. And thank you guys for joining. This episode is Simply Complicated. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, this has been very nice. This has been fun. It is always very nice talking with you. It is, my kids know of you. My husband knows of you. I know that you are always super generous in the way that you are expressing, like the time that we spend together. But please know that you feel my heart, and that I'm so happy to see like everything that is going on in your life. And I think that I only hope that you know how much I respect and admire what you do and who you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of love from me to you.
Thank you. Much love and respect and admiration for you as well. Thanks for watching this episode of Simply Complicated. I hope you had some good takeaways. Please share in the comments below. I would love to hear what stood out to you. For me, I really enjoyed where Rosa took the comment from her mom as being stubborn and then reframed it into being focused. And she was able to understand the strength that she had. Because how many times have people labeled us something, or have we labeled ourselves something and put ourselves in a box that has kind of a negative connotation, versus, oh, this is my strength focus for her, and how can I mature in it and grow in it? You can take Clifton's strengths to see your actual strengths. That's part of what Rosa helped develop and was part of the research team for. And my hope in any of these episodes is that we can just have honest conversations, learn from each other, hear different stories, and help us connect to more growth and understanding in our own lives so that we can show up better for those that we love. Hope you guys have a great day.